Liberal government when it comes to health.
The Honourable Jonathan Coleman.
Mr Speaker, what great entertainment for people on a Wednesday night just after dinner. They can tune in and hear Mrs King spouting a whole lot of bluster. They'll be waiting for the Powerball draw at 8 o'clock, and this is a great lead-in, because what Mrs King has done is just make up a whole lot of stuff there. She missed out all the highlights of the budget. But what I did really appreciate, she's doing some great media monitoring for me. So she seems to read just about every article about me she can find. And I think that shows an opposition spokesperson with a lot of time on her hands. I found one article on Mrs King. It was the Women's Weekly profile. And all I really found out of substance in that one was that, here's a quote, "In pride of place on her bedroom shelf, flanked by an encyclopedia of erotica, is the autobiography of her US counterpart, Hillary Clinton." Well, I think Mrs King rather fancies herself as the Hillary Clinton. It's all true, you can go and Google it, of the New Zealand Parliament. That was a disappointing speech, because apart from all the things she made up, you have to balance those with the bits she left out. Well, in terms of bits she made up, $1.7 billion. She says there's been a $1.7 billion cut. Well, in actual fact, the health vote has gone up $4 billion under National over the past 8 years. I mean, any idiot can look at the vote and see that that's happened. So how Mrs King can go around with a straight face and say that $1.7 billion has been cut, it's completely untrue. Mrs King, once again, has made it up. But when you look at some of the highlights of this budget, look at that. $2.2 billion over 4 years. That's going to deal with the cost pressures. It's going to deal with demographics. There's money there for primary health care. Mrs King is very concerned about primary health care, but she forgets to talk about the free under-13s that this national government has delivered. The fantastic initiatives we've got in place to actually make sure that some of our most vulnerable people in New Zealand get access to services that they need. Things like in this budget, $18 million for the Healthy Homes Initiative, the $12 million for primary care mental health triaging. There's a lot going on that's very good, but I mean, one of the real highlights, Mrs King, one of the things that you failed to deliver, bowel screening. Mrs King had a long period of time when she could have rolled out a bowel screening program. They talked and talked about it. You know how much money they put into it? They put in $0. $0. After 9 years in office, they started talking about it and they put in nothing. And this government this year is rolling out a bowel screening program which is going to save 700 lives a year. It's going to screen 700,000 people aged 60 to 74 every 2 years. But look, what really sums up that speech is Mrs King is all about money. There's nothing there about policy. So her whole argument in health, as it is for their party in education, is, oh, this group didn't get this or this didn't get that. There's no focus on services, no focus on making life better for New Zealanders. And Mrs King's in there slamming social bonds. You know what? She will never try anything new or innovative which is going to deliver a result. She'll never try and raise the bar, because Labor, with their tradition of mediocrity, 100 years of mediocrity tomorrow they'll be celebrating, will never try anything new to get the result. Whereas Bill English, my colleague as Minister of Finance, has driven that social investment approach. He's driven trying to try new things like social bonds to deliver results. Mrs King wants it to fall over. She's not interested in the results because her record as Minister of Health was so woeful. I'm really surprised she still wants to show her face in this Parliament. Under her, the money was doubled, the electives went down by 2,000 per year. It was pathetic, absolutely pathetic. In fact, the Dominion Post wrote in September 2005, it's hard to believe that any government could put so much money into the health system and make it worse. And that was all Mrs King. Mrs King goes around, she thinks she's the greatest health minister ever, but you know what? She doesn't even understand vote health.
Point of order, the Honourable Annette King.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. This is the estimates of the Minister's estimates, and he has now spent considerable minutes talking about when I was Minister of Health 11 years ago.
Yes, and you've order. Maybe I need to stand on a chair. I am on my feet. The Minister is responding to Quite a speech, I must say, that the spokesman gave, and she has now used a point of order to interrupt the speech that he was giving in reply. So he has the floor, and he'll continue.
So look, I would just say she is right. It is about the estimates, and my recommendation to Mrs. King is she should spend less time reading that Hillary Clinton autobiography. She shouldn't open up that erotica encyclopedia. She should get herself a copy of Vote Health and put it by the bedside. That's what she should be studying each night, because she does not understand Vote Health. And I can tell you what, this is a great budget. It's focused on results. It's delivering for New Zealanders.
David Clark.